Let's check in on Davos.
My prediction is there'll be more robots than people. Everyone on Earth is going to have one and going to want one, because who wouldn't want a robot to, assuming it's very safe, watch over your kids, take care of your pet. If you have elderly parents, we are in the most interesting time in history.
A robot who takes care of us? Didn't we already try that with Biden? The auto pen just cut checks, pardoned crooks, and almost bankrupted us. I want a boss with flesh and bones, who I don't need to program and charge his battery. Like the man who never sleeps. Trump is landing back in America tonight after a pretty busy 48 hours in Davos. When he was in Switzerland, not sure if you heard, he demoted the UN and created the Board of Peace and packed it with his golfing buddies.
I think, let me see. Yeah, every one of them is a friend of mine. A couple, let's see, a couple I like, a couple I don't like. No, I like, actually, this group, I like every single one of them. Can you believe it? Usually I have about 2 or 3 that I can't stand.
And in a shocking development, Trump named himself the chairman of the board and called it an honor and hired the UN as his secretary.
Once this board is completely formed, we can do pretty much whatever we want to do, and we'll do it in conjunction with the United Nations. You know, I've always said the United Nations has got tremendous potential, has not used it. On the 8 wars that I ended, I never spoke to the United Nations about any of them.
This is what happens when you sabotage Trump's escalator and Jimmy with his teleprompter. The Trump Board of Peace already doing more than the UN. We're building golf clubs in Gaza. The only thing they'll be fighting over now is tea times.
This is a great location. It all begins, see, I'm a real estate person at heart, and it's all about location. And I said, look at this location on the sea. Look at this beautiful piece of property, what it could be for so many people. It'll be so great. People that are living so poorly are going to be living so well.
Look into the future. The Board of Peace is envisioning what looks like Dubai on the Mediterranean. Kind of looks like a Muslim Miami Beach. But just because it's the Board of Peace doesn't mean we're not going to get a piece of the action.
What about the formation of the Peace Summit? And I was like, is that PIEC? A little piece of Greenland, a little piece of Venezuela.
Elon's got Gutfeld writing his jokes. Poor guy. But he's right. It's not just a little piece of Greenland. Trump says we're getting full access.
I'm not going to have to pay anything. We're going to have total access to Greenland. We're going to have all military access that we want. We're going to be able to put what we need on Greenland because we want it. We're talking about national security and international security. So we're going to not have to pay anything other than the fact that we are building the Golden Dome. And the Golden Dome is going to be something that's going to be very amazing.
The deal right now, and it's still being hashed out, will give the United States pockets of sovereignty. Basically, huge chunks of territory run like American embassies all over the island. Right now, we just have 1 military base there. We'll be adding dozens more. We're also getting major mineral rights. We'll get rights of first refusal, and we'll get veto power over Russian and Chinese mining operations. The deal also includes missile rights for the Golden Dome and an enhanced NATO presence. And Greenland not saying no.
We are willing to discuss and do more. We have a responsibility. So let's talk about it through the right channels in a respectful manner. Then I'm sure we can work something out that benefits all of us.
If Greenland keeps behaving, we might let them have a hockey team. And maybe we'll film some movies up there. Open up a Walmart. See that, Europe? That's good parenting. You behave, you get a treat. NATO isn't even getting in the way. The chief says it's basically a done deal.
All of this is not about Greenland or the Arctic. First of all, this is about how can we protect ourselves against our adversaries. Our main adversary is Russia for NATO. And of course, we see China massively building up. So let's not be naive about China. But Russia is our main adversary.
The Europeans threw a tantrum, and finally, Daddy came home. But the Germans are jealous. But let's be honest, the Germans have daddy issues.
Protect Denmark, Greenland, the North from the threat posed by Russia.
Well, the last time Germany tried to protect somebody, Austria got invaded. The Germans need to settle down. Germany's like an abusive father. They ignore you until they want something, and then they hit you and tell you it's only because I love you. President Trump says if anything happened to Greenland, we'd be there for NATO. But when something happened to us on 9/11, was NATO there for us?
We've never needed them. We have never really asked anything of them. You know, they'll say they sent some troops to Afghanistan or this or that. And they did. They stayed a little back, a little off the front lines.
We thank NATO for helping us in the war on terror. We thank them a lot. The president's point was we can't rely on a small country like Denmark to protect a huge island in our own hemisphere. Even Zelensky gets it. He's calling the Europeans weak wafflers with their hands out.
Europe needs to know how to defend itself. Europe looks lost trying to convince the US president to change. But he will not change. President Trump loves who he is. And he says he loves Europe, but he will not listen to this kind of Europe.
Wow, look at Zelensky, all grown up. He put on a suit, got a job, stopped asking for money. And at first, Zelensky cried and stomped his feet, remember? But then he realized Dad was right. That's why Z's calling Trump strong and Europe weak. Sure, Europe was throwing money at them, but does money solve everybody's problems? Sometimes it spoils them. A good parent teaches their kids respect and gives them deadlines. A bad parent just gives them cash and never checks in. Like the auto pen. Biden threw cash around all over the world, tried to bribe his problems away, and the world walked all over him. Biden and Barack Obama got along so well with Europe because they both believed the West was in decline, and they never did anything about it. They just managed their own decline. Now, this may be acceptable in Europe, but when Donald Trump was elected president of the United States, everything changes. We're in a moment of radical change. These moments come maybe like once a century. AI, the Arctic, trade, China, it's all happening. And America's taking the lead. Iranian nukes, Maduro, Gaza. Now the Cuban communist regime might be about to collapse. NATO's back together. The TikTok deal just went through. The Taiwan trade deal just got papered. And the Board of Peace, licking its chops, wondering how to price seaside condos on the Mediterranean. Everything is falling into place. But Gavin Newsom's in Davos holding up props like Carrot Top, making gay oral sex jokes. Listen.
You're running around distributing knee pads to CEOs, and I think it does.
Handing them out.
And it does.
I do have a few, if you'd like. I don't know.
And honestly, it sounds.
By the way, I'm not kidding. They're the new Trump signature series knee pads. Yeah, and they are available online. I told you the last one sold out. And I just want to sort of. It's a serious moment. It actually. But we laugh. Anyway, these are available and in bulk too.
Gavin stalked Air Force One to Switzerland and waved around knee pads. It's kind of weird. Gavin officiates gay weddings in San Francisco and hawks knee pads for $100 a pop. What, does Gavin think this is a WNBA game, throwing around sex toys? Where does he get all of these knee pads anyway? It's none of my business. Then he started whining that Trump wouldn't let him in the club.
I was going to speak last night. It was a well-established event at the USA House. Simple conversation, discussion. After Trump's speech, they made sure that I didn't. They made sure it was canceled. And that's what's happening in the United States of America. Freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, freedom of speech. It's America in reverse.
If the bouncer doesn't let you in the door, don't moan. Just do what Melania says and be better. Who follows a sitting president overseas and then starts throwing around sex equipment? Now, I wouldn't let you in the club either. When Gavin got a chance to speak, he just sounded like Jessica Tarlov, who I love.
I want you to know Donald Trump is an historic president. That's absolutely correct. He's historically unpopular in the United States of America. In every category, he's underwater. He will be remembered in years, not decades.
Gavin's a lame duck governor running for president, and he's acting like one of these Minneapolis mommies with a whistle, chasing down men and getting in their way and screaming. Trump's cabinet's getting kind of creeped out. They're calling him a psycho San Francisco Ken doll. Listen.
The Treasury Secretary described you as Patrick Bateman meets Sparkle Beach Ken. The White House Communications Director.
That was the U.S. Secretary of Treasury.
I have a couple more, and then you can respond. The White House Communications Director called you Gavin Newsom and a...
Newsom, huh?
Is that kind of discourse from you, from them, good for America?
No, it's deeply unbecoming. Come on, of course it is. It's not what we should be doing. The Treasury Secretary talked about a Barbie doll. It was as if he was reading a diary and had just broken up with someone.
Why is Newsom getting emotional? The only one more emotional than Newsom's Canada.
Canada doesn't live because of the United States. Canada thrives because we are Canadian.
No one cares about Canada. We love them, but we don't think of them, ever. No one else does either. We trade, sometimes they're in the Stanley Cup. That's it. All of a sudden, after no one's heard from Canada since the 18th century, Gavin slapped on his knee pads and started looking up north.
Destruction is not strength. The Trump administration is weakness masquerading as strength. And people need to understand that. I respect what Carney did because he had courage of convictions. He stood up. And I think we need to stand up in America and call this out with clarity. We can lose our republic as we know it. Our country can become unrecognizable in a matter of months, just not years. It is code red.
Does Kneepad Newsom even know what he's doing over there? He's colluding with foreign countries to undermine the sitting president of the United States, the president who achieved peace in the Middle East and got our hands on Greenland. And Newsom's trying to form an anti-American alliance to take him out. Could you imagine if Trump, when he was running for president, followed Barack Obama to Davos and told Europe to stop slobbering all over him? Politics stops at the water's edge, they say. Whatever happened to the rules and norms that Democrats always say they want to uphold? Gavin only gets attention when he drafts off other people. No one listens to his podcasts unless he has Charlie Kirk on or Shapiro or Bannon. He picks a fight with Florida just so he can debate with DeSantis on Fox. He drafts off Air Force One and makes a scene in the Swiss Alps like he's some sex toy salesman. Gavin could have gone over there like a gentleman and showed off his foreign policy chops. What's the Gavin Newsom doctrine? I'm interested. What does Governor Newsom see happening in the next 10 years? We looked through his little speech. He never once mentioned Arctic security, Greenland, minerals, Russia, Ukraine, or even NATO. He gave a campaign speech to people who can't vote. And he tried to get kicked out to get a headline. Gavin can't make it on his own. He's an empty suit. And the only time he makes news is when he picks a fight with someone successful or his state catches on fire. This pick-me governor is a thirsty clout chaser slinging sex gear for ink. Stephen A., he gave him the spanking he was dying for.
To go over there and to be in the presence of other European leaders speaking against the president of the United States, I'm not down with that. Y'all might be, I'm not down with that. When we go somewhere else, it's America first. You know, our problems, our problems. But we ain't taking dirty laundry outside. You don't go on a world stage to disrespect your own house, which is the United States of America. I don't like that at all. Not even a little bit.
The Obama crew gave him another spanking. David Axelrod said this, boy, I tell you what, Newsom's a whip-smart, charismatic Pole. His critiques of Trump are right. But this why can't people just be as courageous as me routine is tedious. Haven't we seen enough self-puffery in our leaders? Kneepad Newsom's got to grow up, but there's no father figure in the Democratic Party to discipline him and show him the ropes. Joe Biden's asleep at the beach. Obama's in Honolulu getting neutered by Michelle on Call Her Daddy. Bill Clinton, he's been held in contempt for hiding over Epstein. Who else is left? Al Gore? Gore is 77, and we're hearing reports that he was booing Trump's cabinet in Davos.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.